for our town, and we want to just thank you for our veterans, with Veterans Day being yesterday, and be with us tonight as we make our decisions, and
Amen. Thank you. Ron, please say a technical prayer for Mr. Bell and Mr. Cool. All right, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Jeff DeVille. Brad Ford. Clint Prater.
Here.
Lyle Fogelman. Brian Martin. Stephen Pringle.
Here.
Sammy Reggie.
Here.
Kim Stringfellow.
here.
And Byron Rose.
Here.
5 members present.
Thank you. We do have a quorum, Brad. Thank you. All right. We'll go directly into the speaker cards that were filled out. And Mr. Chris Hoosiers.
I'll wait until the public works.
I'm sorry,
I'll wait until public works.
till Public Works.
Yeah, committee comes up. I'll reserve it.
Mr. Jason Hewitt.
There we go.
All right, good evening, everyone. Hey, Tim, how are you?
Good, how are you, Jason?
Sustainability Partners, we entered into an agreement with the City of Crowley for the upcoming baseball fields. That project has started underway. We're very excited about that. And we are interested in helping the city further, take my glasses off, I'm fogging up here, any of its infrastructure needs. We can provide infrastructure capital to any infrastructure project that the city is looking to accomplish. And I wanted to come here tonight to express that. If there's further needs that the city's got, we can certainly jump in and help. Whether it's water, wastewater, basically any infrastructure need that the city has. Anybody got any questions for me?
Mr. Craven?
Jason, let me prompt you a little bit, because we met, everybody knows, I guess you and I and Brady and Kim and Brad met and discussed a lot of these things, and it was very, very intriguing to us, the things that you had to say as far as for helping the city out with this stuff. And you said that it would be a simple addendum to the contract we already have now to be able to go with you guys. And my understanding is that, take for instance, if the IR treatment system went out tomorrow, we could call you guys, y'all would come out and you would shop it, you would buy it, you would install it, and you would maintain it for the life of the, whatever the contract is that we sign, and it would be on a usage basis. That's correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. So the city's entered into a master utility service agreement with our company. And what that is, that's a month-to-month agreement. Any type of infrastructure item that the city would like to add under that agreement, we're an alternative to debt and bonds and things of that nature. So basically, we would work with you to understand the scope of the project, bring together any professionals that would need to be brought in for the project, and we would price it out on a usage basis. So if it's wastewater, typically that may be a per gallon or per 1,000 gallons that are processed. Whatever that equipment is, it would then be purchased. It would go into service, and similar to the ball fields, we're responsible to keep that equipment safe and reliable and functioning and operating. If it is not operating, the city doesn't pay for it until we get it operational. So very aligned with what your goals as a community is to deliver essential services. We align up well with that. So, anything that the city's looking to do infrastructure-wise should be a very straightforward process. I think you guys had a little bit of insight with us on the ballparks. We don't mark up any vendor or professional services or things like that. We're really can function as your capital partner. Whenever you need to exercise that capital, we're here and available. It's a 30-day agreement, so the same kind of terms that you already have, where you can cancel at any time. There's no penalties or issues there. And because you know the cost up front, you can procure the items minus their usage, what has been used so far. So it's a very fair way for the city to address needs, and then if capital revenue comes in at a later date, whether it's a grant or additional tax revenue, you can take us out. So we're really function as a flexible financing entity for the city.
And so this agreement wouldn't affect our bond ratings or our credit ratings or any of that stuff. And you also said that we could possibly look at something. I know we're looking at replacing fire trucks, and that's very, very expensive. And you said that maybe that we could even look at something like that. So there's a whole bunch of different things. It's just not just, and I guess that's out of your realm, really, the ball fields. But you could help us out on a lot of other different things besides just the ball field.
Yes, sir. We have a very broad definition of what infrastructure is, and transportation assets such as fire trucks, ambulances, tractors, equipment like that certainly fall under our definition of infrastructure.
Ms. Stringfellow.
Thank you, Mayor. And Jason, so if we went with y'all at the wastewater plant, that would take the depreciation aspect out. Am I correct?
You're correct. As I understand, the city is stockpiling capital in anticipation of, at some point in time, replacing equipment as it wears out. If I'm wrong, please correct me. We basically remove that need.
They're not so much. The issue is whether they should.
Well, they should be, sorry. So we would remove the need to do that. Essentially, you guys are already an existing customer of ours. So anytime you have a scenario where you need additional capital, whether it's an emergency scenario or just normal operations and upgrades, we can provide that in short order.
Mr. Craig.
And also, if you clear up some things, there's been some kind of rumors around and everything that we're looking at letting you operate the facility. You're going to take over operations and you're going to run it and everything, but that's not the case.
No, so we are capital only. We are not constructors or general contractors or operators whatsoever. We would rely upon the city to still operate as it normally does. Certainly, we are flexible if the city would want to bring a third-party operator in, but that really doesn't matter to us. If the city would like to go in that direction, they certainly can, but as it stands, they would, the city's responsible for operating the assets.
Mr. Major.
Yeah, Jason, explain what the reserve component is in what you set aside when, for instance, the turf project, the city's going to be paying SP something on the order of $45,000 a month, if I remember right. And what we've been told by you and Adam and Tom is that you will build up a reserve over time to take care of repairs, et cetera.
Correct. So,
how is that different than, you say there's no depreciation in your offer, but yet that is true, right? Reserve is for depreciation, right?
well, what that reserve is not necessarily depreciation, but it's to replace and fix things, right? So, not an accounting mechanism, but keep things operational, reliable. So, under the terms of our agreement, yes, we do collect part of that payment that we collect. We do put aside as a reserve. That reserve would cover maintenance. That reserve would cover replacement of items over time. Why that's significant and important for the city is that if the city ever cancels the agreement, say the turf agreement, the city decides, hey, we want to get out of that, we actually return any of those reserve funds to the city, right? So those funds become the city. But in that scenario that we have now, those funds are dedicated to maintain and ultimately replace whatever those items, that infrastructure item is. So what it does is it puts discipline in to where it's almost like, think of it almost like a dedicated fund to where, all right, we've done this project, now we know for as long as that agreement is in place, we don't have to worry about X, Y, and Z. We don't have to worry about the maintenance, we don't have to worry about the replacement. And really the benefit that it gives to the city is what happens right now? Well, what happens now is things run, and then they break, and then it's an emergency scenario, and you run out, and everything costs much more to fix it, right? So it allows the city to escape that, and it puts the onus to make sure, on us to make sure that the stuff is kept, safe and reliable. So when things are about, in today's world, you've got a lot of smart stuff out there, and a lot of this stuff will tell you, hey, I'm sick and I'm not feeling good, like a pump or a motor doesn't just immediately overnight quit. It gets ill, and then it vibrates, and then it heats up, and things like that. So we're able to monitor those types of instances to where we avoid that scenario on our own end and go out and trigger replacement. From the city's standpoint, you literally don't feel it. You never know, right? That just happens. Maybe you're part of the communication process of awareness of what's going on, but it doesn't impact you financially, and it certainly doesn't impact your manpower and your labor.
To make sure that we all understand the same way is that if you replace their UV system with a brand new one, let's say it costs $1 million to do that, you will hire a contractor who will furnish and install that UV system. Let's say that costs $1 million. The city's going to have to pay you something indefinitely, right? Because as long as you're willing to provide that service, you will keep that UV system in place. You will replace it completely in 15 to 20 years if you have to, right? But the city's going to be paying you monthly, which covers your cost of the furnishing and installation of the system, correct? And it covers your return on your investment, right? You're not doing it for free.
That's correct.
Okay, and it covers replacement reserves and repair reserves and operation and maintenance reserves.
Well, not the operation, but certainly the repair and maintenance reserves. Again, we don't operate, so that's still up to
So
the city.
the city still has to operate.
City still has to operate. So we would, to make sure I answer your question, so in that scenario, UV system, again, we work with you, right? So we figure out, hey, this is the right system for the city. Here's the costs. Everyone understands what those costs are. This is what the monthly cost would be. And from the city's perspective, that goes into place. There's no CapEx. There's no borrowing or debt for that. And then, as I understand my limited knowledge on UV systems, the big item is constantly replacing the bulbs, right? That's kind of the ongoing maintenance part of that system. So we would cause a contractor to replace that at the appropriate intervals or as those bulbs fail.
So it comes down to really getting numbers from you. On that particular component, we would have to nail down the cost, and then you would have to give the city a proposal to amend their current cooperative endeavor agreement that would say, you're going to do all this, but the city's going to have to pay you so much a month.
That's correct.
And that's what we don't know.
Yeah, that's correct.
And also, we had Brady with you the other day, and you told us, I think Brady told us that he represents 130 companies worldwide, 160 companies worldwide. So when you go out to shop a UV system, and when the city goes out to shop a UV system, there's a big difference. Like you were telling us that you can get it at a better price. You negotiate the terms of the warranty, that you get a lot better warranty, and so that's how you can do it, I think,
Yes, sir.
economically better than what the city does.
So if you think about, if you compare us, and this is certainly a stretch, but if you compare us to like Walmart, right? So Walmart wins because it has tremendous amounts of buying power. So we are purchasing hundreds of millions of dollars a year in infrastructure products and stuff. The warranty is important to us because we're taking the risk, right? So we didn't really talk about that, but we remove the risk of the stuff failing from the city, right? So if you do a bond or a loan or a lease and the stuff doesn't work or it breaks or whatever it may be, you're still on the hook for the lease, right? So you're still paying monthly for that, whereas we're providing this stuff as a service and we're on the hook for it. What we're able to do because of that buying power is we negotiate better warranties, right, from the manufacturer, which only lowers your cost. And we also negotiate better pricing, right? Right now, a lot of times what happens is in typical procurement scenarios, low bidder wins, right? So everyone here, your responsibility is to the community to make sure that public dollars are properly spent. But often what happens is there's compromises on that bid to hit a low number, right? That compromise or value engineering typically occurs on the product level. So, you know, a good product is put in, but maybe there's a better or best product that's out there. What we have found is the installation cost tends to be the same. The product cost is the difference. Like a better product will cost more, and that better product will last longer. And if you take our viewpoint, which is we're looking at things over 20 plus years of time, more upfront may mean a better product that actually lasts longer and over that period of time costs less. If pumps, for example, there's a wide variety of pumps that you can buy. One pump will have a 1-year warranty, and another pump may have a 5-year warranty, and another pump may have a 10-year warranty on it, right? And the difference is the quality of the product, right? So that 10-year pump may be twice as much, but it will last 3 times as long, you know? So it's those kind of things that collectively as a group, we look at and evaluate so that the city would, over that period of time, pay the least possible amount, but have the best possible products and services in place.
Mr. Info?
Thank you, Mayor. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, but also if DEQ, they decide that the system we have is outdated and we just bought a new UV system, then if we didn't go with y'all and we bought that on our own, we would have to eat that cost of a very expensive system. But if we went with y'all in a partnership, then you would take that system out, or you would know ahead of time possibly what the requirements are.
So again, it's the benefit that we bring is we really de-risk infrastructure for municipalities, and that's an exact example of it. What happens when there's a regulatory change? The owner of the asset is the person that's at risk. So when we own that asset, you still operate it, we provide it to you as a service, we're taking that risk of any kind of change, and we know that there's going to be change. So we're willing to take that risk, just like we're willing to take the risk of putting in millions of dollars of turf and LED lighting on a month-to-month contract. You know, so we're willing to take that risk on all things infrastructure. And I think once you guys get a feel for what we do, you'll start looking at us because we tend to pencil out better than your traditional bond and debt options as well.
Okay, one more. Mr. Brady?
And another thing, I was talking to Mr. Prager the other day about the operation out there. I think the most time-consuming, probably the most laborious thing is cleaning those bulbs for the UV system. Would that be included in your pricing, or would our guys still have to do that?
That's really up to you. It would be an a la carte type, think of it almost like an a la carte type services. We, however, would still do periodic inspection. And if, let's say your team was doing that work, if it fell short, we would know it through periodic inspection. We would notify you, and then either you take corrective actions or we would take corrective actions. this stuff's gotta be taken care of.
Right.
Mr.
And
Mayor.
can you,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
and can you tell us, you told us a story about, I think it was Simsport, where y'all
Sure.
didn't help them out? Don't be shy, come on. Tell us about it.
So, the city of Simpsport was one of our first customers. In fact, day before yesterday, for the project that we did with them, they won an LMA award, for it. And what we started out there at Simpsport was, they were in very dire straits. I mean, it's a small community, on the legislative auditor's watch list, and it was failing. What we did first, it was a very small project, well, it's a lot of money to me, but it's a small project in the grand scope of things, couple $100,000. And the first project was we needed to correct their cash register, which for them was the water meter. So they had old water meters in place. We caused to put in new water meters that were ultrasonic, so no moving parts, 20-year warranty on those, and did it at $3.05 per month was the price for their residential meter. That project was completed in February. March was their first full month of billing. So they experienced an instant return on investment. So each meter, because of the accuracy, generated more than the $3.05 per month. And they got about a 48% bump in revenue without any rate raising or anything like that. So what was happening was they were losing a lot of water because the meters weren't reading it. The other thing in the project that was found, is that the contractor found, was there were several locations that weren't even metered. So there were about 30 or 35 locations that didn't even have a meter that should have had a meter. So that was kind of cleaned up. What we were able to do there was, with that bump in revenue, which was, put in perspective, about $14,000 a month on the water side. Well, they experienced a similar bump on the sewer side because, you don't measure sewer, you measure what goes in, and you say it's the same amount that goes out. So that put them in a really positive financial position. We were then able to, the city had some long-term liabilities that were on their books, some long-term debts, some loans and things like that. We were able to then pay those off all through that same revenue. It's about $650,000 of long-term, really an anchor on the community balance sheet items. We paid those off, and now we're moving forward with them on it's about a $3.5 million wastewater upgrade, right? As I was told, the wastewater plant had been upgraded since 1987. They've done a really good job of keeping things together, but it was beyond the useful life. So, with one little change, they were able to affect what's been, about $4.5 million, which is a lot of money for a town of 2,000 people, all from putting in good quality stuff at the beginning. So that's some of the things that we could potentially look at and help the city of Crowley to improve operations. For the most part, when you've got old stuff, new quality stuff will deliver either utility savings, operational savings, maintenance savings, and things like that. The hard part is having the capital to get the new stuff, and that's where we can certainly help.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hewitt. I would like to hear more about it from Mr. Craig later. And, but we do thank you for coming and giving that information.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Luke Dupuy.
I was going to speak at the community and economic development.
Ms. Kathy Spell.
Okay, Tim, I need to ask one question before I get into this conversation. Last meeting, you said you called the owner of the property, correct?
Yes, ma'am, when I spoke to you.
Okay, who is the owner of the property?
The Freelands.
Okay. I need to ask you a question. I need to give a copy to all these councilors, please. 1, 2, It went to Tim also. So you're saying you talked to the Freelance, correct?
I talked to, he wasn't in, I spoke to his secretary.
Okay, you just said you spoke to Freeland. I asked you who you talked to, you said Freeland.
You asked me who the property was for, as Mr. Freeland.
And you said you
And when I
talked to
called,
him.
I called his office, his
Last week,
secretary answered the phone.
okay, but I have on the video of last deal, you said you called him and talked to him. I can pull up the video and play it right here.
You're more than welcome to. but
Okay, if you want to? Okay, I'm asking, why was the secretary give a citation? She is not the owner of the property.
Because she was the person at that particular business who owned the property.
Okay, thank you for telling me that. Jimmy Broussard's here with the cops. I'm driving my son's vehicle. I run a red light. Who do they give the ticket to? Answer that question.
I'm not in law enforcement, I'm sorry.
You're not? They're gonna give me the ticket because I'm driving his truck. Why did she get a ticket? This woman was very upset. She is not the owner of the property. So by law, you did not give him a citation. He didn't have 5 days to cut it. Also, I'm looking at this number, 500007. 7 citations in 2 years. I can go around the city tomorrow and see a lot of citations. Now, also, I did bring this to Clay Higgins' office. I'm bringing all the documents to the Attorney General's office and the ethic. I'm going all the way, Tim, because we want to know why did the secretary get a citation with her name, her address, her driver's license. She should have not. If I could understand, if my car was found in the ditch and my son was driving, I would get a citation. I want to know why you did not give the citation to the Freelands. He is the owner of the property. So you're going to tell me I live next door to you and you work for me and I didn't cut my grass, they're going to give you a citation? I need to know. I'd like you to answer that question.
So I don't have an answer for you, Madam.
Okay, I need this put in the minutes. He has no answer. Well, on the ordinance, I can pull it back if you want me to. It does not say the secretary. It says, should any property owner allowed, okay, for any of the weeds, grass, garbage, rubbish, trash, junk, and other unhealthy growths, okay, on sidewalks, but on and on, 5 days. You told me 10 days. Well, this lady is not the owner. I want to know why your company, your office gave this lady the citation. Upset the lady, because the family members were even talking about this lady was very upset. I pray they cut the grass. Why did the lady get the citation?
We served the warning to.
The warning to not the owner. It says on your, did you read the audits? City audits, I need to know. Do you need a copy? Because you're welcome to have my copy. I got more at home. It says the owner of the property, not the worker of the property. The owner. Did you read it? Loud and clear. Do you want me to read it again? Owner. I'm not getting an answer from you. I need this all in the minutes because, like I said, I'm going to Baton Rouge with all this. Because you're not doing your job.
Has the grass been cut?
Were you embarrassed when Channel 10 came out there and, oh, you was not? If I was you, I'd be hiding in my house. I was very embarrassed for you. Because the grass was so long, he announced on national television the rice capital turned out into the grass capital. Because I took him around town, he could not believe. Do you know, did you see all the debris that looked like alligators and somebody saying it's alligator fish, a bunch on your city property? Did you see that on television? Did you?
Amen.
You did not? Do you want a picture of it? Could you, maybe y'all didn't see it either. You might have missed the television station. Okay? I think you need to see how beautiful your city property that we, Crawley, Louisiana, did for, number one, it's still sitting on the property. I went today, city property, not on these people's property. and everybody in town is talking about it. Okay, bring this out here. It's right there on Avenue
Everybody's
I.
talking about what, ma'am?
Just what I said, debris of alligator, fish or an alligator, a buku,
Some
a
little,
pile, because the mayor didn't go around the city, or the city workers did not do their job and go look at the grass that was so long. Really, Tim, this was on national television. I would be staying in my house, I wouldn't show my face if I was the mayor.
I have a question. What, is the grass cut?
Oh, guess what? I want to ask, that's another question. Thank you for telling me that. The deadline was the 10th. It was not cut. Did they get a fine? Did they get a fine? You're the mayor.
I'd have to
You
check
should have been out there
with-
checking. You shouldn't be asking me. I'm asking you why they're not fined. If it'd be me or any of these other people, we would be fined. But I want to thank the Crawley PD, because if I would be riding in your truck and they called me running a red light, I would get a ticket. They would give it to the owner because I drove your vehicle. But how would you feel if I was driving your vehicle and they gave you a ticket? Wouldn't you be upset? This lady was very upset. This was embarrassing that people in Crowley, in the middle of the city, still sitting there. If you want, we can all take a drive out there, and I want you to see how beautiful that looks. The neighbors, today passed by, I stood out there and made sure they cut the grass. Okay, but the debris is still there because of our good job our mayor is doing. I don't need a speaker because I can talk loud. I want to ask the question. When is it going to be picked up? Not tomorrow, not with Tim also in office. When is it going to be picked up?
Are you talking about the alligators again?
Hello, what do you think I'm talking about?
The one-
Thank God it ain't a
the
dead
picture
body, because it'd be still rotting there.
The picture that you just showed me?
Yes,
that
sir.
I was unaware of?
On you wasn't? You don't watch the news?
May not be watching the station you're watching, it's possible.
Oh, well, you need to start watching, sweetheart.
Absolutely. Now
I
that
told you I was gonna be on
No.
Channel 10.
No.
I told you that. I even asked,
now
and
that you're
excuse
watching-
me. Well,
now
wait,
that-
you go on and say you didn't watch. You knew Channel 10 would talk to you, Tim. Why you didn't get on television?
Channel 10 came and did an interview. That doesn't
An
necessarily-
interview, but you did not get on television. I told him that before he left to go talk to you.
I can't help that.
You
That has
can.
nothing to do with. an-
Well, you're the mayor. I think you need to step up. Now, I am not stopping this. I am going to Jeff Flanders' office, bring all this. I want everything in the minutes tonight because I'm bringing this one. I'm bringing the video that you said you called the man. Okay? You should not have called the man. You should have sent him a citation.
Thank you for informing me, and I do appreciate it. And by the way, we will get it picked up tomorrow.
Oh, you will?
Since you're actually, you're telling me about it right now.
Oh, really?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you knew that I was going to be on Channel 10 because he told you that he was interviewing me on television 10. You should have watched. You knew he wasn't going to be a pretty sight. I would tour him out to the Freeland. Now that you said Freeland, I would not bring the owner. On Mill Street, he made me stand by the fence. I was scared to death to go too close to the stupid grass. On Mill Street and F. Oh man, our city's so beautiful. Citation. Why is only 7 citations in 2 years? I can understand if our city looked like Rain used to be. Rain was horrible. Guess who's horrible now? We are. Exactly what Channel 10 said. We used to be the rice capital. Now we are the grass capital. But it should have said we're the trash capital too. The middle of the city. If Tim Marceau, the mayor, would have his workers or him going around looking at all this grass, they would have seen all that. Correct? It ain't yesterday. It's not a week ago. When that man cut that grass was a tractor, I don't think I went out there because I got a text saying, hey, guess what? They cut the grass. I went out there. The grass was still 6 inches with a tractor left. I said, sir. He said, well, oh no, it's not being left. I am staying here until it's cut down to the ground. You know what? People in your city, they shouldn't be telling me thank you. I'm going to name one, last name only. An old man, Mr. Gilroy, stopped and said, thank you. said, thank you for what? You wanted to make me cry. You got it because, baby, maybe the rats will stop coming in our house. The lady that runs Northgate Apartments today told me there are running in our driveways, in the parking lot. Aren't you ashamed? Your city, 2 years. I can understand if you stepped into the plate for 1 day or 2 weeks, a month. 2 years, 7 citations. Do you need me to go around and show you all what needs to be cited in your city? Because if I gotta show you, we don't need you. We need somebody who's gonna get out there and see their city, not stay at their house, work in their yard. Get out your house and off your yard. Don't worry about doing construction around your house. Worry about constructing Crowley. And I'm saying it not just for me, for everybody. Tim, come on, man. You might be a good person, but you're not good for the city. Now answer, is this town going to be cleaned up? Yes, that's a lie. Too many promises. It ain't gonna happen. Like I said, I walked out there and seen it. And the people coming out of Stutes Edition, I want to ask another question. I don't think these people in Stutes Edition, and I do not live in Stutes Edition, I can say I live in Eastport subdivision. I can understand if I had rats, mice in my house, because I live by a field. Whoop-de-doo. I'll buy my poison. This is in the middle of the city. Why you or your workers don't go to all these people, to Genesis, to Northgate Apartments, and to the East, and to Stutes Edition, to these elderly, and give them rat poison? You had the nerve to come to me whispering in my ear before the meeting, I guess thinking I wasn't going to talk, but I am, about you didn't have no rat poison. That was a week ago. Did you order some?
Was unaware of what I told you. I was unaware that we do not get rat poison out anymore because it is a liability to the city.
It's a liability to the city, but number one, don't you think that land was a liability to your people in your city?
Absolutely.
Okay, I think you are the landowner.
You requested it to be cut, and I think it was cut either today or yesterday, wasn't it?
Oh, you don't even know it. I just said it a while ago. Are you really listening to anything that these people are out here talking to you about?
No.
I'm asking one more time, is this man going to get fined because the deadline, he passed the deadline. The deadline was the 10th. And I recall the deadline was 2 days ago. I'm asking, is it because it's Freeland? If he was failed, me, I would have got it. I'd have gotten the citation. I feel if they can't go cut the grass, why are you not doing your job and giving them a fine? I'm waiting for an answer.
We are doing our job, and we are trying.
You
really hard to do
are?
our job.
You are
And
really doing your
another
job.
thing is I'm looking for a date.
The 5th. I gave you the paper. It shows you the 5th, and you gave it to the wrong person. Look at the date. November the 5th. 5 days is November the 10th. Is he going to get a fine? It passed the deadline, Tim.
I will check with my code enforcement in the morning.
So you're telling me you don't know the city audits? You don't know it?
You asked me a question and I answered it.
And I'm asking you, do you know the city
And I'm going to check
audits?
with my code enforcement office in the morning.
Is he going to get a fine?
I will check with my code enforcement office in the morning.
Okay. And the debris that's on the side of the road, are you gonna go cut the grass on the city property so they can throw some more, or you just gonna let it keep growing? That's
Grass-
city property.
Grass on city property, if you look at your ordinance, Ms. Kathy, all people in the city of Crowley are responsible for maintaining their ditches.
Well, okay, then I need a citation to this man because it's right off the property of that land. The land property is, quote unquote, don't think I didn't do my homework. Property parcel number 0610155160. 06101550C. So I think if that's the case, like you said, it's a property owner, then he needs to be fined because the grass is still long from the road to his property. And I will be checking in to see if there was a fine. Because like I said, the deadline was the 10th. And today's the 12th. I'm waiting for the answer,
I said I would check in the code enforcement in the morning.
okay? You're still not getting to my point. Tim, it's 10 days, okay, I want to ask a question. You're the mayor, you should know the answer. If I don't cut my grass within 10 days, what are you going to do?
If you don't cut your grass within 10 days.
5 days. Oh, that's another thing. Your paper, what you shaking your hands for? Because you're the one who sent this citation. You should know what's at the bottom of the citation. Please advise that you have 10 days. Y'all scratching it out. Why you don't have new paper saying 5 days?
Why we don't what?
Why you don't have new sheet saying 5 days?
We had to because there was a mistake on the warning, on the citation itself.
Okay, why you can't
So,
have some print up?
well,
I know they don't
correct.
cause Mega Bucks to print some more.
I'm sorry.
I know they don't cause Mega Bucks to print some more.
Wait, say that one
To
time.
print some more
To print some.
with the
what-
correct.
What was
dates.
your comment before you said that? It
I
does-
said, what is the problem that you can't reprint some more with 5 days?
We ordered them and it costs money.
Oh, wow, Tim. You can make one and you can turn around and make copies in your office. Please, please, people are
No,
getting that
ma'am, this
expensive.
is duplicate copies.
Okay, I want to ask, you still didn't answer that question. With all the citations in town of Crowley, why is 00007? And the reason it's 7 is because I brought this to your attention last week about the grass. Why is 7 out of 2 years? Have you went down the roads of Crowley and see all the grass that's growing? Down Standard Mill, we're city, the grass on the side of the railroad tracks. Well, I guess are we supposed to go out there and cut the railroad tracks too? Along the railroad tracks? I'm asking a question.
Okay, years ago, we have been implementing a certified letter. A certified letter which a lot of times comes back because there's no signature. And it takes quite a long time.
Years ago, okay, what year was that? We're in 2020. So do we have to wait until 2000 or 3000?
Okay, I'm trying to finish answering the question. If I
Go
may.
for it.
Thank you. So years ago, and up until maybe a year ago, we have been implementing this particular process that allows us to be able to send a registered or certified letter to people who own and have grass that are tall. It takes a while. It really takes a while sometimes because if they don't answer, it's the postal system, and then you have to run it again. If they still don't answer, you have to run it again. So then we came up with this idea, hoping that we could maybe get something done with either the litter or the tall grass, and that's why we came up with these warnings. And if you don't get it cut, then we'll issue a violation. And now, the fine with this, Miss Kathy, this is a warning, okay? And if it doesn't get cut, there is a citation that has been given,
Okay.
and then it goes to the court system, not the city of Crowley.
Okay, I want you to give me the address where it says violation of city ordinance has been observed. I want you to read it to me. That's on that paper that I gave you. I want to know the address. Can you understand the address? I could scribble,
I see your point.
okay? Whose point is it to check all this out? These are your workers. Come on, Tim. We're not saying you're a bad guy. We're just saying you ain't doing the job. If you can't do it, step out. If it's too stressful, I don't want stress on you, sweetheart. I don't. I don't wish stress on nobody. But if this job is too stressful, go back and work at your house and give this job to someone else that can take the stress.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna tell you now, these people coming around there saying thank you, they shouldn't be thanking me. They should be looking up at you and saying, thank you, Mayor. Thank you for taking care of our city. But they're not. And if somebody like me don't stand up for these people, these elderly people, who will? You didn't. Middle of town, the grass was as tall as me. I got pictures of when they cut it with the deal. It was still cut after the tractor. Until I went out there and I stopped that man. I said, oh no, boo, you can cut it down to the ground. Because the next week I'll need you out of here. You cannot tell me you're doing your job. The Freelands, why they're not getting a citation from on Mill Street? Oh, warning. You're not giving it to the owner. It says the owner. Why are y'all giving it to the worker? So by law, the man never got a warning. Now, I need to answer that question.
His office got it. His office got it, we never
Wow.
served.
You still did not answer my question. Why it says in your city ordinance, one more time,
The property of the owner.
the owner of the property. It does not say the worker of the property, the man that because
Miss Kathy, it also says in, by law, that if you go to serve papers to someone, that we can serve it to anyone at that location.
right, but
As
it
long
should,
as they're over 18 years of age.
but it said should be number one, property owner. I could understand you could have put his name on it,
I'm gonna repeat myself again. It's by law that we can serve anyone who is at that particular business or residence within a legal age.
Then you need to take and do your city ordinance again, because it says the owner of the property. I can understand you could give the woman the citation or the warning to the worker. But the paper, the citation should have been, the owner's name. Sure, exactly what you're just saying, sweetheart. If they got a ticket for my son, they can come serve it, give it to me if it was on my son's name. Because he ran the red light, they're gonna come give me a ticket at my house on my name? No, baby. No, it don't work that way. You could take and put, this lady did not do nothing wrong. And your record shows that she had a warning. Why? She didn't do anything wrong. And I'm gonna stand up for this woman. I don't even know her from Jack
You're correct. That is incorrect. It should have been issued to Mr. Freeland.
Thank you. You were
Yeah.
just sitting there arguing with me, saying that it could be.
The name on here
It could be
is
given to
incorrect, yes.
anyone.
Yeah.
Okay, why does it have her address, her home address? Why does it have her driver's license?
I'm not sure. I'll have to check with.
Okay, I want that in minutes too. That's what I'm telling you.
It will be. It's all recorded.
I am taking and I'm bringing this up to higher standards because we're not getting it. You're not doing it. You're not checking what the workers are doing. Now, I want to know who is TC. Okay, I don't understand this, F or W.
His initial is TC.
Who is that?
Tony Collins, who is our assistant in code enforcement.
Okay, don't you think that if he can't do his job right and give it to the wrong citation, don't you think he needs to be booted? I'm waiting for the answer.
That's your opinion, Ms. Kathy. I will take it up
You
with him
mean
in
you're
the
gonna
morning.
keep, okay, you're saying my opinion. I'm saying, my opinion is you're not doing your job.
Well, you said that many times, but you
Oh, well, I'm
also
gonna
said.
say it over and
you
I'm not
also
the only
just
one.
said my opinion, in your opinion, that I should boot an employee who makes a mistake. So,
One
You know
mistake.
what, I do think.
Okay, how many mistakes have y'all made with only 7 citations in 2 years?
I was trying to finish that answer as well.
Oh, I'm waiting for it, sweetie.
Okay, well, I told you already, because of the fact that we were sending out registered and certified letters, which are becoming repetitious, costing the city money.
You got copies of these?
May I finish, Ms. Kathy?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. So anyway, which is costing the city $8.32 every time that it runs through the mail. So we keep having to do it repetitiously. So now we're hoping that with this process, that we can get it done a little bit better, and we just started this process not long ago.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, you said y'all been sending certified, right? How many you sent me in 2 years, roughly?
I can't answer that right now.
You can?
No, ma'am.
Okay, well, I'm gonna check out, see, because it's,
Sure, absolutely.
I'm gonna see how many in 2 years you got. I thank y'all.
Good, thank you. All right. We have any agenda? Yep, okay. Approval of the minutes of Volu A, B, and C special council meeting held on October 7th, 2020, regular council meeting held on October 9th, 2020, special council meeting held on October 20th, 2020.
So moved.
Offered by Mr. Primo,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Woolridge. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Next, the mayor's report, the sales tax chart. Sales tax chart, a little decrease to 3.67, but if you look at it, it is from, coming from last year's numbers, which last year's numbers were pretty good. And if you look at all the other years prior to that, we seem to be doing pretty good at this time. Okay, next is our user fee chart. Shows that we have an increase of 30.18% based on last year's numbers. And again, that was based on last year's numbers. All right, next is our budget analysis. Looks like we're doing pretty good. We all should be at 8.33 at this moment, and we're doing pretty well. There's one particular on the 1.5% sales tax, and as soon as the clerk has a chance to be able to make those adjustments and get that in, we'll be under budget. Okay, we'll move into standing committee reports. First, Public Works Committee, Mr. Prater.
Thank you, Mayor. The Public Works Committee convened Wednesday, November 4th, 2020 at 4 p.m. in the council chambers, and the quorum was present. Under action items, a motion was offered by myself and seconded by Alderman Byron Goodrich to approve partial payment estimate number 5 to Southern Constructors Incorporated for the citywide drainage improvements project in amount to be reported to the City Council at their regular monthly meeting on November 12th, 2020. And that motion carried, and I so move.
Offered by Mr. Prater, seconded by Mr. Woodridge. Discussion?
Ma'am.
I'm sorry.
I'll report the figures down there.
Yes, Mr.
Okay. I did send you all an email to inform you of this a few days ago. Officially, the project is 38% complete by time, 23% complete by cost. The total value of completed work to date is $1,009,982.76. We retain 5% of that amount for labor material needs, and that comes to $50,499.14. So the partial payment number 5 amount comes to $63,079.88.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
You have to wait till, we don't have a quorum right now.
Okay. All right. And what was that amount again, Mr.?
It is $63,079.81.
Oh, Ms. Frenchman.
Thank you. How many more payments do you know, Mr. Mayor? How many payments do we have, do you know?
That depends on how many months it takes the contract to be finished. We anticipate by the contract time originally given to him in the contract that he would be done. I think I'm a little closer to being precise number. It's somewhere around May and June. And so we do a partial every month, so it's every month.
And this is the project that we're extending that time?
I'm sorry?
We're extending the time of the project?
Yes, yes, the time extension is for this.
There's no further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Motion was offered by Alderman Vernon Martin, seconded by Alderman Brad Ford to approve contract change order number 4 under the city's construction contract with Southern Constructors Incorporated for the citywide drainage improvements project to increase contract time by 45 calendar days. And that motion carried, and I so move.
Second.
Offered by Mr. Krieger, seconded by Ms. Stringfellow. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
The motion was offered by Alderman Martin and seconded by Alderman Wilridge to adopt a resolution approving the plans and specifications for the 2020-2021 improvements to the city-owned parking lot project and authorizing the advertisement for bids. That motion carried, and I so move.
Second.
Offered by Mr. Krieger, seconded by Mr. Primo. Discussion? Mr. Krieger?
Yes, I was wondering, how many, do we gain, how many parking spaces are we gonna gain from the original overlay? Because I know the original overlay had Hinskins Park, it had Mustang Park, it had a bunch of different parking lots already in there, and I'm just wondering, what is the total that we're gonna gain? Let's say we do the 650,000 overlay that was originally planned, and we're gonna gain parking areas from that, from what I understand, because we're gonna be able to stripe it. How many more parking spaces are we gonna gain by doing this? Another 1 million?
Yeah, my engineering report covers that, so in case the numbers escape you later, on my report, page 5, I indicate that the $650,000 to $700,000 estimate that we gave you before was giving us an estimated number of spaces just over 300. With the, this is information I was given you back in September meeting, when I asked you to break out the parking lot improvements from the street contract. I estimated at that time that the contract would be in the range of 1.6 to 1.7 million, and that was to get approximately 645 parking spaces.
See, the thing I have a heartburn with is that we sold 30 parking spots at Miller Stadium for $20,000. That's $666 for each parking spot. What we're being asked to do now is create another, let's say 300 parking spots for another $1 million. That's $3,333 for each parking space that we're gonna gain. I fail to see justice in that. I just don't see that happening, but that's just my opinion, but it just seems like that's an enormous amount of money for a parking spot.
If I may just respond, the sale of the property that lost those places didn't have anything to do with the improvements. It was an aggregate surface. It would have had to be improved the same way these would be improved. So to render it comparable to what we're doing here, we'd have to spend more money there too. And I don't know what that is, but it's not a fair comparison to say that asphalt on limestone striped is going to compare to an aggregate, existing aggregate park.
And I was surprised to see that nothing is being done to Miller Stadium in all of these proposals. I know we lost the 30 parking spots. We have a parking area there that really needs some attention. And I was under the impression that down Oscar Johnson Drive, in back of the fence, that was gonna be some parking spots, and that's not addressed in this extra $1 million either, so, there's just some things that to me are missing in this, and I don't quite get it.
Mr. Primo?
Thank you. Well, Clint, one thing on the spots that we did lose, and to begin with, I felt the same as you. But as things went on, I was looking at long-term economic development for the city. And when Mr. Bobby Hanks approached us and said that we would be able to use his parking lot, it more than replaces those 30 spots that we lose. So I think that's where we do replace those 30 spots.
Ms. Stringfellow?
Thank you, and then I guess we'll let our speaker speak. I went out there today and Tuesday, and it looks great out there. The work being done is, it's nice to see. My only feeling is that we put some space between those two projects. We're not sure of the return on our investment on the parks just yet. If we could just put a space in between, I think we do probably need that, but to do it right away before we even know if we're gonna get a return on our investment from the parks is just, not ideal, just my, 2 cents on it.
Mr. Primo?
Kim, I do appreciate your concern. Our concern, when I say our, Peter and my concern for the most part is we already have 42 tournaments on the books for next year. Some that are telling us they're gonna be 60 to 70 team tournaments. If they come to Crowley and there are no parking spots for those people, they're not coming back to Crowley. Youngsville had the same problem that we are facing now, and they had to reconfigure all their parking because of that. And we're trying to not have that problem. But if we have 60 to 70 team tournaments, 300 spots will not do it. It just won't.
Mr. Greenfield?
But we do have parking there. It's just not ideal. It's not pretty, but we do have parking there. We have ample space. It's not beautiful, but there is ample space to park.
You're correct, there is ample space, but they're not parking spots right now. That's what we want to try to do. They just be parking in the grass right now.
Or we could put limestone. It's not all grass. There's a lot of area there that's not grass. Everything out on Mustang Road, that's a large area out there. We've cut a lot of trees down out there.
You're right, but the stuff on Mustang Road was in the previous. That was going to be overlaid anyway.
Right,
That's not additional parking.
right.
I just feel if we're going to spend the amount of money we're spending to put a beautiful facility together, we should offer ample parking to those people.
Well,
And that's just my opinion.
Right. I understand.
And my opinion would be that we do the original overlay, what we were planning on doing, and maybe put a base down of limestone for the other areas. And if things turn out as grand as we hope they will, if we do get the 60-team tournament, I think we're banking a lot on sulfur being down, and I don't know that they'll be down very long, and if they do, they will come back. And I would just like, look, we stuck our neck out for $5.2 million, and here's another $650,000 that we're willing to put towards the parking lot. Another $1 million is just, that's a little extreme until we have an idea. We're just not sure this is gonna work as well as it is, and I'm hoping it does. I'm a big fan, and I can tell you, I've been to countless tournaments, and I was never deterred of not going to a tournament and watching my son play because there was limestone instead of asphalt. I've never had that problem.
Okay. More questions? Okay. All right. All in favor?
I'd like to talk
No, you can't. We're in a debate right now, and we need to continue. So, looking for, there was a motion that was offered.
I asked
It was
before
offered by
you started
Mr.
the committee.
Sir,
I asked to talk before committee.
you asked it. I apologize if I misunderstood you. I thought you said public safety.
Public Works.
I apologize.
Yes, you did.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood you, Chris. We don't normally allow it, but go ahead.
My name is Chris Hoosiers, and I'm here to voice my concerns about transferring $1.2 million tax dollars from the street overlay and drainage project to enhance parking for the ballparks. The street overlay project presented to this council includes resurfacing all existing city streets and paved parking areas for the Rice Festival Building and Martin Luther King Center. The business plan presented to the council for the $5 million ballpark project indicated revenues would be offset, expenses are a break-even investment. It certainly does not support an additional $1.2 million to pay existing limestone parking lots. Tonight, you will consider transferring over $1 million tax dollars to enhance parking lots that will only serve the ballparks. This is a disservice to the greater needs of our city and its taxpayers. Keep in mind, unforeseen repairs will likely arise during the city's streetwide street project. Even though additional funds may currently be available, all funding should be held in reserve until the street and drainage project is completed. Therefore, I encourage you not to proceed with paving parking lots for the ballparks at this time, and only do so when the Recreation Department can cover the expenses through its operations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Uchis, and again, I apologize for misunderstanding your public safety, your public works. Mr. Mr. Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor. Peter Kirsch called me late this afternoon, about 4. He explained to me that he had a conversation with Alderman Crater, and he was concerned about your concerns about the amount of money that was going to be spent if we go to the 600+ options of parking places and the possible $1.8 billion price tag. He asked me if there were any options. What options did we have that would cost less? And of course, the answer begs the question is, well, how many fewer parking places would work for the type of tournaments that would be served? What I did was I looked at there are 5 basic parking lots on the complex. I'm going to refer to them as Hinskins, which is on the west side. I call Gladiatrama existing, which is the parking lot that's there now for people who come to play tennis. They drive and park on that really worn asphalt surface there. We were going to upgrade that in place. Then there's Gladiatrama New, which is an area between the tennis courts and Mill Street that we had decided would be a good parking lot to serve to get to the 600+ parking spaces. And then what I'm calling the swimming pool, old swimming pool area, is a very large area, basically stretching almost from Mill Street all the way south to beyond where the old swimming pool was, and it's between Oscar Johnson Drive and Pony Field. So I'll refer to swimming pool in a minute. And then there's what I call Mustang, which is, everybody knows in the Mustang Road, there is limestone parking there now. What would I suggest as another option to save money would be to pave at this point, and by pave I mean provide the proper base, proper surface and striping for Hinskins. For Gladiatrama existing, I think because it's in bad enough shape now that we shouldn't leave it in that oxidized asphalt state, that we should go ahead and do that one. And then do the swimming pool site. Those 3 together, if we do them, would give us nearly 475 parking places. And that's, I'm going to tell you, that's plus or minus 5 or 10, because it's going to matter when we finally get to construction, staking it out, seeing if there's anything unforeseen. So I don't want anybody to hold us to 475. It could be something less, something more, give or take 5 or 10. But 477, that price tag would go down from 1.8 down to 1.3. Keep in mind that price tag, 1.3, includes overlaying Oscar Johnson. I mentioned to you last week that we thought it would be good to do Oscar Johnson now. It is in contract A, but we would do it now. We don't have to, but that's part of that 1.3, 1 million. And also it includes Martin Luther King parking lot. So basically, if you weren't looking at Martin Luther King parking lot and Oscar Johnson overlay, that 1.3 goes down to 1.2, that you would be investing in parking at the complex to get 477 spaces instead of 637 spaces. So he asked me to, I gave that information to him, and he asked me to present it to you tonight. He couldn't be here. I think he's self-quarantined. So I'm offering that as an option to what was in these plans. If you're willing to look at that, then all you have to do is adopt a resolution but in that adoption, instruct us to keep out Mustang, Dodge Trahan new in the contract. All we have to do is just show those not in this contract. So what that does is it takes care of another very crucial problem, and that is to get the parking lot improvements completed before the first tournament's coming. And if we don't take that action tonight, we will lose weeks, maybe a month or so, and we may wind up in a position of being in the middle of constructing parking lots while tournaments are going on, which I don't think would be a good situation. So cost is certainly paramount. Timing is not that far behind in being very significant and important to the success of that turf and tournament program.
Mr. Gregory?
So Hinskins Park was in the original overlay, right?
Hinskins was in the original to overlay what was currently limestone. They're moving the fence in on that field, Hinskins Field, significantly to add more space for parking. So we have to build limestone. We're also using a structural fabric because of the soil analysis that we got. And so that's what's increasing the cost there to get to more marketplaces at Hinskins.
And then Trahan existing, that was in the original contract, overlay contract also.
Yes, it was.
And then the swimming pool, I know the swimming pool area that's grass now was not, but I think the parking lot that's in between the old swimming pool and the cemetery was in the original overlay, wasn't it?
Anything that was currently asphalt, even if it is currently asphalt and it is currently limestone, we would have done that in that $650 to $700.
And plus that big parking lot next to the recreation center that's in between Mill Street and the swimming pool, that was included in, that was going to be overlaid also.
That was
So
not
that's
the
part of
limestone.
it.
Yeah, that was the limestone aspect.
So that's why I'm saying, I mean, most of this stuff that's in the proposal now was already in the overlay proposal for the $650,000, and it's not a big area that we're increasing for that much money.
Well, that parking lot between Recreation Center and Pony is in the 477 spaces that the 1.2 million, that is being added to, because what's not currently asphalt or the limestone is a large area. And so we are getting more out of that total area than we would in parking places if we just improve the existing asphalt and limestone areas. I mean, and that's evident on the aerial photographs that they have.
No further discussion? Okay. Mr. Primo?
No, I just want to know what we're going to be voting.
Well, you're voting on, the motion was offered by Alderman Morton, second by Alderman Rivers to adopt a resolution approving the plan and specifications for 2021.
No, Mayor, I understand that, but are we voting on the original or are we voting on this second option?
I mean, that's up to you.
And I think the third option should be just to go back to the original overlay project that we had already approved for $650,000 and maybe do asphalt with the rest of the stuff and build a base and then come back, if everything turns out like we think, and do the asphalt later. But, I mean, we can add a lot of parking with asphalt, with limestone without this exorbitant cost.
You can do that with a substitute motion, Mr. Mayor.
And to do what you suggest, the third option would be just to overlay what's there now. If we do that and later we want to expand, the cost to expand later is going to be more expensive per area because we've got to build it up. What we were trying to do is get the price tag down to something that palatable to the council, but begin and complete any parking lot the way it should be for the duration, not to do that now and then have to redo something later. And that's why this option. What I'm suggesting is that if you want to consider this Plan B, let's call it, then someone would have to make a motion to amend the resolution to take those other two out. That's, I think what's on the table now is what was approved by committee. If you want to do Plan B, then you've got to amend that resolution in this motion.
Mr.
And
Graham,
to be frank, I don't think either one of those plans is gonna pass tonight. But that's just my feeling, but I think a Plan C would be to go back to the original overlay project and do the rest with limestone for now. And if everything pans out like we think it is, or we hope it is, then we can come back later and we'll be able to afford to do the rest of the stuff, right? This is just we're tripling what we originally thought we were gonna do. And it's just, we're just not there. I mean, we're hoping and we're praying that everything's gonna work out like we hope. But, there's still a lot of unforeseen. What if, with the new president and the governor that we have, if they say they want to shut down all sports activities next year, guess what? The governor we have, he's gonna shut it down. And then where we're gonna be? We're gonna have nothing. So I would proceed with caution for now until we get all this stuff straightened out and make sure that everything's gonna be according to plan, and then proceed to spend more money later. But from now, I personally, I would be okay with doing the original 650 and do the original stuff and do limestone, but this 1.2 million and all this other stuff, I'm not for it, personally.
Mr. Mayor,
Just know that if we go back to just overlay what's there, that's a whole different set of plans. What you approved 2 months ago is what I'm offering now. If we don't do this, or we don't do the Plan B, or we don't at least use this planning to improve parking lots, even if we do even less than Plan B. If we don't do it, these plans are wasted. And so we're gonna have to go back and replan how to do the existing parking lots, which would have been something that would have been good to know 2 months ago. When our estimate and our scope was defined back then.
Mr. Graham,
One thing I would like to say, Clint, what you said is if the governor would shut it down or something next year, then we don't have to pay anything. Because if we don't have the use of the fields, we don't pay for that time period.
We still have to pay the parking lot. That's not part of the sustainability.
No, but the parking lots is in the bond issue.
Right,
Yes.
that's what we're talking about.
Yes.
okay, we have three choices. We either vote for it, we vote against it, or somebody offers, the motion. Okay, I hear no offer.
So does that mean we're voting on the original motion?
If nobody offers a substitute motion.
Okay, I'll offer a substitute motion to go back to the original overlay that was proposed to us back a year or two ago, however long that has been, and do those parking lots as originally planned, that we all voted on and we approved way back then before it was taken out, and do limestone in other areas that we need to see the need. I mean, I know Miller Stadium needs some. We could do the back side of that fence area with limestone, and we could do limestone in the other areas and set a base. And if everything works out real good, then we come back and do the overlay with asphalt at a later date. But I would proceed with caution right now with everything that we're looking at as far as for COVID and uncertainty, and that's just my opinion.
Okay, you offer a substitute motion. Okay? Okay, offered by Mr. Grader, seconded by Ms. Stringfellow. You got that, Mr. Grader? Okay. All right, now discussion. Mr. Mayor, I have a question, Mr. Mayor. Do you have the information of what Mr. Prater is referring to of the original costs and the plans and specifications of the original, of what Mr. Prater is referring to?
I have it in my trust.
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
660,000.
Okay,
Yeah, it was an estimate, it wasn't based on plans, so.
okay.
Well, the plans that you gave us with the overlay had all of those parking and parking lots.
It had 660,000.
Well, in September, when you approved the project that we designed, I told you that between 650 and 700 would get you somewhere around 300 on existing services. That's in my report. But I don't have plans for it. I wasn't authorized to prepare plans to improve your existing parking lots without expanding them, so I would have to do that.
But I thought before we started discussing this, when we first took office, I think, that we were given a big set of plans, and it had all of these parking lots on it, and every street in Crowley was defined. That's not good enough plans to proceed with.
Well, that's not construction plans, that's just, that is a concept. Construction plans are plan specifications and details that contractors bid on, so they know they're all bidding on the same thing, and then they've got to be held to that during construction. Look what's in these plans. It's a lot of details. And so the one pager I gave you was a concept, it wasn't a set of construction plans.
I didn't know.
Mr. Primo?
One thing that really concerns me is that we authorized it back in September to do this. So now the city is gonna incur all these costs and we'll get nothing out of it.
But I think in the future we'll be able to use these plans if everything pans out.
If you do what you're asking to do, these plans will have to be modified because you'll have a difference of existing conditions.
Well, I don't know the feeling that you're getting right now.
Hold on, I'm sorry, hold on. Keep order.
I just want to make it known that one person did vote no on the plans. So, just to make that known.
Okay, Mr. Prater.
And I don't know the feeling that everybody else is getting right now, but my feeling is that if we're gonna approve anything, any type of overlay, it's gonna have to be back to the original, that, you know, that we were, that, I guess it wasn't planned, but it was a concept. That we were gonna do the lots that I talked about. We'll do Hinston, we'll do the swimming pool area, we'll do the side of the recreation department. I think Mustang was even included in those plans to do that. And that, I think, would pass tonight, but I'm telling you, Stephen, if you get the same feeling I'm getting, if you want something to pass, then I think that's the way to go. If you want to wait till everybody else gets here and debate it again, then we could table it and put it for next month. It's up to you.
No, Clint, I understand that. I'm just not in favor of it. I see it differently, that's all.
Okay, so there is a motion, a substitute motion offered by Mr. Prater. Is there an amount that we could go by that?
Well, it's gonna have to go out to bid.
I understand,
But
but
if we're gonna do what you're suggesting, then I'll prepare a better estimate once we have details. And that's how I got to this estimate, where we did details.
okay,
So
so,
we knew quantities, and quantities were estimated safe enough to feel confident in the cost. And so we need to do that, and we can do that.
okay,
Because personally, I'm not comfortable with $1.8, $1.9 million. And I'm not really comfortable with the 1.2 we suggested either, because that's twice what we talked about.
Let me
Anyway,
ask-
that's me, and, you know, we can debate it when we talk about it, but that's just the way I feel.
Let me offer this. What if you direct me to look, I've only been looking at this as options since about 4 o'clock this afternoon. Let me look at it closer and see if there's any way that we can eliminate a parking lot here or there and come up with something, let's say, under $1 million. Would that be of interest to you? If I could get, say, 300 or 400 spaces that would be asphalt striped, would be suitable for the $5.2 million you're about to invest in turfing as a facility. If I can get that down in another option, would you be interested in that? So I would suggest that maybe what we would do is back out all motions and make a motion to direct me to come back to you with a better option than A or B.
And maybe, I mean, I would be glad to go and sit with you and Stephen and Peter and whoever else wants to talk about it and come up with a different, but I'm telling you, the feeling I'm getting now is that if we don't do this, then we're not gonna get anything done, and we're gonna be back to square one.
And I would suggest you table the resolution altogether, however that is procedurally, and then make a motion to direct me to find a better option that's more affordable.
And need some money off of that. Well, first of all, we have to go, we have to do away with the substitute motion that you have.
All we have to do is offer the table, right?
Yes, offer the table, yes, that's correct.
I'll make the offer to table it.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right? You got that? Okay. And then once we have that, we'll get together and talk
I
about it.
want to do something.
Absolutely,
I
we
just,
can.
I just don't feel like it's gonna pass. One point,
Okay,
let's do something, let's do something that's gonna pass.
all right, so, Mr. Mayor, you know what you need to do, man?
I don't hear a motion to
We're
direct
ready.
me.
We're getting ready to take
Second.
it. It was offered and seconded by Mr. Reggie. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
But in that motion, it has to direct Mr. Mayor to come up with that? Is that in there?
Yes,
Okay.
that's what Mr. Mayor had told Mr. Craig. Mr. Craig agreed.
Just one suggestion, being the timing is of the essence, is it possible that the council would consider, instead of terminating this meeting, is recessing it to a date in a matter of a few days? I can come back with information, that way you don't have to call for another meeting. And we can get this decided on sometime next
How do
week. It doesn't have to be in the motion, but at some time before the meeting would be adjourned, is if you would offer a motion to recess until such time. That would give me time to do what I have to do, come back and meet with Clint, Stephen, Peter, come up with a better proposal, and then meet without having to call them. And you can do that at the end of the meeting.
Okay. And you okay with that?
I'm fine.
Okay.
I wanna work for it. I'm fine.
Good. All right. Okay, you may continue.
Public Works Director Albert John presented the monthly Public Works report. Street Commissioner Mr. Gilbert Bozing was absent. His monthly Street Commissioner's report was read by myself. City Engineer Tim Mater presented the monthly Engineer's report. Mr. Jay Delafield and Ms. Whitney Laird provided an update on the sale of revenue bonds. Ms. Kathy Dullion addressed the committee with her complaints of actually Ms. Kathy Spell, committee with her complaints of tall grass and rats near her mother's home on North Avenue I, and reached out to the mayor for assistance, but the grass is still not been cut, and her mother still does not have rat poison as promised by the mayor. Mr. John Wayne Hanks addressed the committee with his complaints of his culverts near his home have not been cleaned out after he made the request, and he stated the city dumped pine cones and pine needles in his yard. Mrs. Teresa Richard addressed the committee with her complaints of 4 houses in her area that have code enforcement violations. They are either condemnable and or a health hazard. She claimed the city has not properly notified the owners of the property of their violations via letter. There was no further business to come before the Public Works Committee and committee recess.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Craver. Utility Committee, let's see, Mr. Martin, not here, Mr. Richard.
Thank you, Mayor. Utility Committee convened Wednesday, November 4th, 2020, at 4 p.m. in the council chambers. Quorum was present. Under action items, a motion was offered by Jeffrey Bell and seconded by myself to table the action, authorize a resolution, Mayor and Board of Aldermen, the City of Crowley, Cape Parish, Louisiana, introducing the proposed ordinance and calling for a public hearing to amend and reenact section 10-30, Division 1.5, sewer service user fee charges of Article 2 of Chapter 10 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Crowley to amend the sewer user fees and charge set forth therein, to repeal all ordinances or parts of ordinances contrary thereto or conflict therewith, to provide for the provisions hereof to be serviceable and provide for all matters relative thereto. Under non-action items, wastewater superintendent Tim Prater presented the monthly wastewater report. City engineer Tim Mater presented the monthly engineer's report.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Alderman Prater discussed his idea of different options other than raising sewer user fee rates to address concerns raised by the sewer user fee review committee. Proposed inviting sustainable partners to appear before the council at the regular monthly meeting to discuss how the company could provide different options to address the sewer user fee review committee's concerns. And there was no further business to come before the utility committee, and the committee recessed.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy. Recreation. Mr. Primo.
Thank you, Mayor. Recreation Committee met Wednesday, November 4th. There were no action items. Under non-action items, Peter Kirsch, Recreation Director, presented the monthly Recreation Department report. Tim Mater, City Engineer, presented the monthly Engineer's report. There was no further business to come before Recreation Committee, and the committee recessed.
Thank you, Mr. Primo. Okay, joining the annexation will be Mr. Fogler. Here. Mr. Primo. Am I correct?
No, it's me.
I'm sorry,
It's
Mr.
me.
Rinko.
Thank you, that's okay.
I'm looking at the wrong line.
The Zoning and Annexation Committee convened Wednesday, November 4th. In the council chambers, a quorum was present. There were no action items. Under non-action items, City Engineer Tim Mater presented the monthly engineer's report. There was no further business to come before the Zoning and Annexation Committee, and the committee recessed.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rinko.
Okay, and I'll just continue public safety if that's okay.
Oh, that's fine. Anybody, Mr. Wood, you all? Okay, go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Rinko.
The Public Safety Committee convened Wednesday, November 4th, in the council chambers, and a quorum was present. Under action items, a motion was offered by Alderman Core and seconded by Alderman Morton to approve the following renewal permits for 2021 beer and liquor licenses. And is Chief still here?
No, stepped out.
Okay, I think they are all okay. I did speak with Chief, and he didn't tell me if any weren't, and I think there's 29? 39? The motion carried, and I so moved.
Okay, and it's considering all of them that are listed as,
Yes.
okay?
Contingent on that, he did
That's
sign
correct.
off on.
Right,
Right.
yes.
Okay, offered by Mr. Rinko. Okay, it's okay.
Well, I'll second it.
Second, okay.
Then we need to discuss it.
We will. Yes, sir. We will. Okay, offered by Mr. Rinko, seconded by Mr. Crater. Discussion. Mr. Crater.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to table this until the next meeting because of the lack of a quorum. Because Mr. Reggie's gonna have to recuse himself from
It's
the
okay.
vote, and we only have 4 of us here.
It's okay, the law says that you still have a quorum. There's 4 of you here that vote on it. Yes, sir. And it does not remove him because of 5 is, but it does not remove his explanation. He abstaining, but you don't remove it. You still have a quorum.
Still have a quorum. He's
You
just
still have a
abstaining.
quorum. He's abstaining, but you don't remove the vote of his, you don't remove the abstaining That's correct. You are
I
still,
withdraw.
that's correct. Okay, thank you. Okay, any more discussions? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Fellow.
Under non-action items, Chief Jimmy Broussard presented the monthly police department report. Fire Chief Louis Romero presented the monthly fire department report. Tony Duyon of Code Enforcement was absent. Mr. Jason Montz appeared before the committee to inform us that he purchased a demolition permit for the house located at 318 West 9th Street 30 days ago, but he had not finished the work. He asked for more time to continue to demolish and repair the house. The committee chairman advised Mr. Muntz that the city council had already acted at a previous meeting to condemn the house, and after he purchased the demolition permit, he had 30 days to complete the demolition. The 30 days have expired. There was no further action to come before Public Safety Committee, and I think Mr. Luke Dupree wanted to speak.
He said that economic.
Oh, okay, that's true. No more action to come before public safety and a committee recess.
Thank you, Ms. Stringfellow. Next public building?
I think I'm reading this one as well.
You'll keep going.
Okay, the Public Building Committee convened Wednesday, November 4th at 4 p.m. in the council chambers. A quorum was present. Under action items, a motion was offered by myself and seconded by Alderman Crater to adopt a resolution by the mayor and board of aldermen of the city of Crowley, Acadia Parish, Louisiana, authorizing a lease to Smile Community Action Agency for office space in the Crowley Enterprise Center located at 11 North Parkinson Avenue, Crowley, Louisiana, to provide for the terms and conditions thereof and to provide for all matters relative thereto. Motion carried with a vote of 3 yeas and Chairperson Willridge abstaining. And I so move.
Offered by Ms. Stringfellow, seconded by Mr. Crater. Discussion? Mr. Reggie?
I was just gonna say again that there was some discussion issues with the building. Would we want to maybe just go month to month instead of going a year at a time?
You,
Could I offer them?
no, sir, you can't. That's the legislation. That's already money that's given by the legislation.
But you could do a month-to-month lease.
No, sir, it's a yearly lease. And it's offered.
We can't, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am?
So we can't change the lease terms? Like, could we
That
make it for
agreement-
6 months, or could we
Not
change the
that I'm aware of, I
terms?
can check, but not that I'm aware of, and their lease is expiring.
Okay.
And it's a year for every one of those tenants.
Okay, because
And that was agreements that were done way back then.
if we can't change the terms, then why do we vote on it? Just my-
You have to.
If it's a foregone conclusion, why do we vote on it? You see what I'm saying? I
Yes,
just-
ma'am, but we have to vote on it, and it has to be approved by the council.
Okay, but we can, do you know, Stephen, can we change the terms? Okay,
It's just extending the leases for later. And that money is already budgeted within the legislation. Yes, sir.
And do you know, is there a way that, I know a lot of them expressed my concerns, maybe tear the building down and all this other stuff. So what are the terms, so if we do this lease, can we terminate the lease at any time, or is it, are we locked in for a year?
That would be a Mr. Reagan
Like with a
question.
30-day notice, maybe we can terminate at any time. I don't know what's in the lease, but.
It very well could say that, I'm not sure if it says that or it don't. But I do know that this particular building, after doing some research on all of this stuff, this particular building becomes a little more complicated than we all realize. And this,
It says terminated by a 30-day notice.
okay, and also, I'm going to continue, thank you, I'm also going to continue that I did find out that, and I'm going to dig into it a little bit more, and that years ago that, that the city came into agreement whenever that building was purchased. And I'm assuming that there was, I'm just gonna assume here, I'm not positive, that there was, quite a bit of grant money involved. So, but I'll check into that even further. So we have obligations to the state of Louisiana because of that. So, but I'll check into it and I'll be glad to get back to you and let you know that.
And reading on the paper, it looks like we lost one of our renters or our leases.
Yes, the Chamber of Commerce has been exploring to do that for quite some time, and they found a building on the court circle. Yes, sir. Yeah, they were given that was an agreement done way back when, and they didn't pay anything for the lease. Yes, Ms. Stringfellow.
Thank you, Mayor. So if we do, approve their lease for a year and the council decides to do something different with the building, we will be able to get out of that lease?
According to what the lease says.
30-day notice.
30 days.
Okay, all right,
According
thank
to
you.
that, I will get with Mr. Reagan just to make sure I'll ask all those questions.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay? All right, that was offered by, any more discussion, I'm sorry. That was offered by Ms. Stringfellow, seconded by Mr. Prater. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I think Mr. Woolridge had to abstain.
I will, I'm going to now for a second. Okay? You got it? Okay, and also I will make it known for the record as well for public safety. I didn't say it. Mr. Reggie abstained as well because of his business. Okay?
Okay, and there were no non-action items on public committees, Public Building Committee. There were no further business to come before the Public Buildings Committee and committee recessed.
Thank you, Ms. Stringfellow. You might
And
as
I'll
well
just
continue.
continue reading.
Keep on going.
The Insurance and Personnel Committee convened Wednesday, November 4th. In the council chambers, a quorum was present. There were no action items. Under non-action items, it was announced by Fire Chief Louis Romero that the Crowley Fire Department driver Scott Moton will be the fire department's representative on the Civil Service Board. There was no further business to come before the Insurance and Personnel Committee, and the committee recessed.
Thank you for all of those, Ms. Stringfellow. Next, Community and Economic Development, Mr. Reggie, but Mr. Luke, he's been sitting here so patiently. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir, thank you. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and members of the City Council. I drove in all the way today from Baton Rouge because I love my community, I love Katy Parish, I love Crowley, and the people in Baton Rouge don't want to cook. So I came out. So I'm here today to talk to you guys in a similar fashion to what Ms. Spell came to speak to you about earlier tonight. I didn't know that it was going to be this far into the night that I'd be speaking to you, so I apologize for that. Our city does have problems with some of the quality of life development issues in the city. Lots of cities do. During the pandemic, a lot of cities saw a surge in issues such as enforcement of code enforcement activities, some of the nuisance abatement processes, a lot of littering due to the hurricanes. But largely those cities, those that were not severely impacted by the hurricanes, such as Lake Charles, were able to combat those, and at this time, most of the larger, our size, comparable municipalities don't have as many nuisance problems. The reason I came to talk to you guys tonight is because of a comment that was made at the meeting last week, and also at some meetings throughout the summer, was that for this problem or that problem regarding quality of life development, we don't know what to do. We don't know where we can find the money for grass cutting. We don't know what we can do to make, the system for condemning a house shorter in the city. We don't know what we can do to do listen to this, and we're looking into solutions for this, and we're looking into solutions for that. I came today because yesterday marks the date that I had in my idea. The idea came into my head for this plan, right here. 2 weeks later, I sat down with the mayor, and a week after that with each and every one of you, aside from Mr. Mayor, about coming up with this comprehensive quality of life development strategy set for the city at no cost to the city that would not cost the city anything to implement. After 120 hours of pro bono service for this city, and this project is what led me to found my company that I am CEO and general consultant of today. I have this nice shirt on for. We produced this plan for the city. Not a drop of it has yet to be implemented. That is, to me, an issue, but it does have reasoning and warrant. There's been a national pandemic. There have been 2 major hurricanes that have impacted our area and several storms. So for many months I said, they are busy. They're busy to the bone. They've got staffing issues. Half their staff has coronavirus. They can't get where they need to be. The hurricane just happened. I get that. That is completely comparable and fine, that issue. I'm not here to complain. I'm not here to place blame on anybody. It doesn't matter if it's the people's fault for littering or code enforcement's fault for not enforcing or the council's fault for not, having the ordinance right or the mayor's fault for not executing. Because placing blame for me and for a municipal systems purpose, which I now have a degree in, when I came back to y'all last November, I didn't have a degree in it. Now, placing blame does not solve an issue. You can have your idea of where your blame should be placed, that's fine. But I'm here to offer solutions. This plan right here has its first mechanism. The first thing that was offered to you was a quality of life development strategy utilized by several municipalities in Louisiana, written by the LMA and the City Attorneys Association, called an environmental court that the city is allowed to create. And what it does is it takes a lot of these administrative steps and a lot of these, first of all, it creates a judicial hearing, so it's not as cumbersome on the council and having these legislative and political problems with, whose house and which ward, and that's my constituent. But one of the things that's consistently been stated by those municipalities who have used this type of court is that it was cost neutral. It wasn't more expensive in the long run to implement. They had to buy a couple of new forms, and maybe they had to have one of their city workers do an extra something for about 6 hours a month. But in the end, it was cost neutral. That's why I was including this plan. There was absolutely no cost, you don't have to create a budget item for it, if that makes sense. As long as you have a hearing officer that's willing to volunteer, and I know several attorneys in town in our area that would. I'm coming to you today for that purpose, for this purpose right here. The same purpose I came last November, exactly 1 year ago from last week. Sorry, from yesterday. Because I want to help. I have no ulterior motive. I don't get paid for what I do. I want to help you implement this. I wrote it for you. We've had a pandemic. I get it. You can place blame where you want on it not being implemented. That's fine. Some of the stuff that have been implemented by the council, some of the stuff that have been implemented by the mayor, and some of the stuff some of the city clubs could have jumped on. That's fine. As a public policy consultant, I live on Henrietta Drive. My phone, you all have my phone number. If you call me, I will do my very best to help you. If Miss Joan calls me, I'll be in your office tomorrow, Mr. Mayor. But I wrote this, and not a drop of it has been used. And the city comes about once a month, on either of the council meetings, they say, well, we don't know what to do about this. I think to myself as I'm watching Jim Crowley at my house, or I'm in Baton Rouge studying and watching it, you know, there's a lot of people that watch y'all that are doing stuff while they're watching it. I think to myself, if they'd only read past page 4, they'd understand and they'd know what to do. Or if they'd only call me, I could tell them exactly what to do right now. So that's what I'm coming here to offer, is some help. Right now, I see a lot of potential for this city. I see a lot of potential for this parish and for our area. I'm one of the very few people my age that are in college that aren't trying to get the hell out of this place. I really, and that's a sad thing, and there are issues with that. Everyone wants to move to a bigger city, that's fine. But we can make our smaller city better. Right now, there are things, even if the mayor is tight, you know, even if City Hall is running around because there is a hurricane, because there is a pandemic, because, you know, there are problems at the animal shelter or with this drainage or this project. There are ordinances in here that the city council can have. You know, and honestly, it's a bit unprofessional for me to say, but I don't quite take the excuse that everyone is so very busy and there was only one actionable agenda item on the agenda tonight. I was looking as Stella was talking, I didn't know her or anything until she spoke on the news the other day. But there are provisions in the Louisiana statutes that allow you guys to create ordinances that impose further penalties for having grass tall enough to invite rodents and other environmental hazards. Louisiana DEQ has people just like me who specialize in environmental and municipal environmental sort of regulation and abatement that you can call. The city of Eunice has an ordinance whereby their same ordinance that, the spell was speaking, the warning or a citation being served to somebody for not being in compliance with the code enforcement regulations. They have an ordinance, and in their ordinance, it allows police officers to enforce some of these actions. Now, I understand that the police department probably doesn't want that burden, and it doesn't put any responsibility on them, but an ordinance of that type would actually allow officers, if they had time, to go and sort of speak with these people, and, you know, wearing a uniform sometimes is a little bit more compelling than someone that shows up in a nice shirt that says City Proud. It also allows people who love this city and serve in capacities as reserve officers like myself to be able to get in a squad car, go down and speak with these people and not beg, but tell them to clean their properties. Sometimes a uniform goes a little bit longer than a nice city proud shirt. But regardless, that's what Eunice does. And I know that they're not also the cleanest city ever, but it seems like a very, efficient mechanism. I don't mean to be long-winded or just sit up here and talk, but I just want you to know that as someone who specifically delves in just this area of public policies, local government systems, I live on Henrietta Drive. I live 1 block from Miss County, Stringfellow. I live 8 blocks from Jeff, and I think I live about 25 blocks from Flint. So I'm here. If you have questions, please ask me. If you have ideas, ask me. If you want to know if I have ideas for X, Y, Z thing, please ask me. And don't just come to the meeting twice a month and say, well, we don't know what to do. But if anyone has any questions, I'm standing right here right now. I know that the docket only had 1 agenda item. I didn't think it would take that long, so I thought I'd have a little bit more time to ask me questions. But if you have any questions about, honestly, anything that a local government system does, or some of the sanctions that you can impose, or how the Larson Act works in relation to public policy matters, I'd be glad to answer.
Thank you, Mayor. Luke, thank you for saying all that. With the litter abatement court, would that take the citations out that Miss Kathy spoke about, and we got a copy of it, the citation? I mean, that would take that out of our code enforcement's hands?
No, ma'am. So the way, and Again, I would, the ordinance itself, which you all have a copy of already because it's already in the appendix of this plan, the ordinance itself was written by the Louisiana City's Attorney, the Louisiana City Attorney Association, and the LMA, and it's been used in multiple cities. So as far as, Mr. Reagan being burdened with looking over it and answering those questions for you, you wouldn't really have to revise it or anything. But I'll answer your question in brief, and then I can speak about what that exactly is, even though we went over it back in February, which was a long time ago. But no, it does not take any citation ability away from code enforcement, the same way that the district court here doesn't take the handcuffs from police officers. The code enforcement officers are the people who issue the citations. We're talking about the mechanism by which those things are adjudicated.
We're talking about, Ms. Kathy was saying, for instance, is this person going to be fined, and that would be in the courts?
Yes, yes, ma'am. So I can vary, because I understand you're pressed for time, and all of us are trying to go home so we can try to watch some reruns. But the way that it works is essentially the same as it is now, until you get to the adjudication part, the hearing part. Right now, your committee is consistently clogged at times with condemnation procedures and other procedures that have to do with sort of code enforcement. I know y'all don't have grass cutting procedures here, but they also take it back level. This court, known at least in the environmental court, would essentially take the place of what the council does and what some of the imposition of fines does at the code enforcement level. And all it does is this is the bottom line. This is what you need to know, that I don't even sit here and read you the ordinance, it's very boring. All it does is it takes steps away from the process. The process that you currently utilize, in my opinion, as a professional in this field, is very, very step-heavy, which allows things to get lost in cracks. It allows simple mistakes to happen. It allows people who aren't educated about the process to have many, many complaints about it. And it allows slowness. And that slowness is something that is the worst part of any quality development plan or enforcement system. You can have great plans, but if you have them imposed 3 years down the road, they aren't great. This plan here was created to allow for every single piece of it to be piecemeal implemented in 1 year. And if you wanted to be slow about it, 2 years. Not a piece of it's been implemented. However, you can start right now. You're not late to the game. You're never late. Today can be a good day for a good start.
Mr. Gregory.
Yes, sir, and I gotta apologize because you did put a lot of work into that plan, and it's a great plan, and we should have been more proactive. But as it was reported in the newspaper, that we had our head of code enforcement, Mr. Bouillon, who was the city inspector, actually come in front of, at that podium you're standing at right now, and tell the council that he was not gonna issue citations, that he was not gonna use the citation book. And it's evident there's only been 7 citations written in 2 years or whatever, however long that's been, and it's not being done. It's kind of like our hands are pretty much tied. We can't, as a council, I don't know where we can go, what we can do to try and implement some of these things. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that, because I can tell you there's a lot of houses that we've sat here and we've condemned, and we've said, yeah, tear them down and do what we gotta do. And I go show them to you right now. There's several of them around the city that are still the same way that they've been like that for a year or two, and I've said it many, many times. Kim and I have worked on this, and we've tried, and your plan, I thought, man, that's going to be great. We're going to really get stuff done now. And guess what? We're not doing anything. And I wish you would get more involved. I wish you were more involved with helping us out, because it's an area that we have a lot of concerns, our citizens have a lot of concerns with, and it's not happening. And I don't know how to jumpstart and get it happening, to start happening. So any input you would have, I'd be glad to sit down and talk to you about it. I mean, it seems to me like you need to be talking to the mayor more than you do to council about this stuff and trying to get stuff done. But I would suggest look, you're a bright guy, we all know that. Tim, he can help you out a lot, and I would implore you to please sit down with this guy and talk to him.
Mr. Stringfellow?
Thank you, Mayor. And I would just like to say that we did implement one tiny thing. It was, I got the
The dumpster.
litter, well, the dumpsters, yes. Okay, well, two things.
Oh, yeah.
The dumpster and the litter and blight committee. And we were strong and going heavy, and then COVID happened, but, so I was all in and looking over it and beginning to write my own ordinances and you're right, though, COVID happened and we kind of halted everything, but we need to get back to it. You're correct on that, and I think we will. But thank you so much for bringing that to us.
Thank you, Councilor Stringfellow. Mr. Mayor, if I'd be allowed to address a couple of those questions that they had for me.
I'm sorry?
I'm asking if I can address some of the questions. that
Sure.
they had. So, thank you, Councilwoman Stringfellow, and thank you, Councilman Prater. I was actually, I apologize for saying that none of the items were done. I forgot about the blight and litter task force that was created. I was driving on the way up here and trying to remember if anything had been done, and I stopped for gas twice and once paid for gas and then kept driving because I was so nervous about this that I didn't fill my tank up. So, the Shell gas station is $20 of free gas in Maryland if you want to go grab some. So, to answer the questions that Councilman Prater had, enforcement is, I would have to look at and speak with Mr. Duhon to be able to say if enforcement is lacking or if there's any sort of problems in that area, but that is your primary area of problem if that is what is happening, because of the fact that any adjudication mechanism you have, such as the council now or your administrative court you would have, can't do anything if no citations are given. But I don't know that that's what's happening. I don't work here. In a hypothetical sense, and I can answer this in a professional capacity as a hypothetical and not advice to the city. I'm sorry, what was one of the questions that you had asked? I'm sorry, the buildings, yes. So I don't know the status of any of the buildings currently being condemned, demolished, or whatnot, but I can tell you this. If there's a building that has been condemned and there hasn't been action on it yet, that might be still lost in the later steps of the process. The council actually has the power to enact an ordinance that states that a building will be condemned within a certain period of time after condemnation. It has to allow for people to get permits and requests for self-demolition first. And that can be, those steps in that flow chart is actually in this plan. If you look at it, I can't recall it verbatim right now, but you can look in the plan that I have, and the flow chart is there. I believe it has some steps after condemnation that allow the council to be able to have a little bit more influence over that. The other thing that you have to have for that, unfortunately, is money. And if the council does not appropriate funds for that specific purpose, oftentimes those funds get, there's no funding for a demolition. The flip side to that is you don't know how many homes that you are going to adjudicate as condemned, so you do not know how much money to allocate for condemnation and the demolition of condemned buildings. That's something that there's a lot of research on it, and cities are doing different things. I won't sit up here and take everyone's time in the public and on YouTube and wherever people are streaming this for that. I can sit down with the mayor and you guys talk about that. But yeah, if anyone doesn't have any further questions, as the last note I would like to say, I came to you once as a student, come to you now as a competent professional in this field, and asking that you at least take my services, because right now, they're pro bono. The second I graduate from the law center and I can actually sit here, I don't think we'd be able to choose me.
Thank you, Mr. Wu. We appreciate it very much.
When do you graduate?
2022 in December.
Okay. Yes, I did.
Community and Economic Development Committee convened Wednesday, November 4th, 2020, at 4 p.m. in the council chambers. A quorum was present. Under action items, there were none. Under non-action items, I reminded everyone of the Crowley Main Street Taste of Crowley, which was scheduled for tomorrow at the time, Thursday, November 5th, at the Grand Opera House of the South. And then I also noted the Work and Wine Stroll, which would be held tomorrow, Friday, November 13th. I'll just add that the Main Streets will be closed, I think starts at 4 o'clock. And there was no further business to come before Community and Economic Development Committee, and the committee recessed.
I'm going to do revenue and finance. All right, thank you. Let's see, yes, it goes to you.
Revenue and Finance Committee convened Wednesday, November 4th, 2020, at 4 p.m. in the council chambers. A quorum was present. Under action items, there were none. Under non-action items, there were none. And there was no business to come before Revenue and Finance Committee, and the committee recessed.
Okay. Mr. Mayor. Nothing further? All right, thank you. Under other business. President Richard, the one product, requesting city of Providence co-sponsor performance market. Is he here? Mr. Redmond? Yes, sir. All right, Mr. Redmond Richard, is one product, requesting city of Providence co-sponsor performance market on November 14th, 2020, and December 28th, 2020. Or through, is that what you're saying?
No, actually, I think there was a little miscommunication. What we're looking for is our initial permission to use the property at 10 North Parkinson was up to October 31st, from my understanding, because we're doing a trial basis to see how it went. It's actually been a really big success for us, and we're looking to extend our season until December 5th. So that would mean that we would be using it this Saturday, the 14th, the 28th, and then December 5th would be our last one for this year.
December 5th?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you make a note of that. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, December 5th would be our last one for the year. And then we're looking at starting again, we want to start again next year, but we're looking at possibly around the March area. But once we get closer to that time, we'll have a better judge of when we're going to start, and we can provide y'all with the schedule of what weekends that we would be using the property. Yeah.
Okay,
So just to kind of let y'all know that we are, hopefully, everything goes good, we'll have it next year again.
You're the contact person?
Yes, sir. I'll be the contact person for it.
Okay. Also, I'd like to remind you, Mr. Richard, that we can't allow anybody to be able to use the facility, the actual building itself. Is because of the storm, the door got damaged, and we had to plywood it. So we do not meet, we don't meet the fire marshal's code.
Yes, sir, we understand that,
Okay,
and
great.
we've made changes to it to where we've moved everybody on the patio
Awesome.
that was inside, so that we keep it until it's fixed. And
Yes, sir, we're trying to get that fixed as soon as possible.
Awesome.
Okay? All right.
I'll make a motion as stated, that we grant approval to one Crowley.
Okay, offered by Mr. Prater, seconded by Mr. Woolridge. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Richard,
All
for
right, thank
coming.
you.
Appreciate your
Appreciate it.
patience. Okay, next. To consider and amend resolution authorizing appropriate revisions to employment of special counsel for the city of Providence, state of Louisiana, in connection with financing the acquisition and installation of water test for turf all field lighting and various other unofficial turf, all field lighting and various other athletic facility improvements with sustainability goals, LLC, and providing for other matters in connection with the foregoing. Do you remember what Mr. J. Delafield had said last? He was changing, what that is concerning is he has to change his hours, is the way he's getting paid. So that's what this is for, and you do have that in your packet as a resolution. And that's what that's for. So need somebody to offer a motion? Okay, offered by Ms. Stringfellow, seconded by Mr. Rader. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now, we need to set a date, we cannot adjourn, we are going to ask for a recessment, to recess, and we need to set a date.
And this is to finish the discussion on the parking area.
Yes, Mr.
I
Mayor?
would suggest that you have the groundbreaking on Tuesday, while we're doing it through, and maybe that would be a good time to.
Tuesday? So that'll give you enough time?
Sure.
So Tuesday, I'll make it at 3, everybody will be there, and would you just come here, you want to do it at 4?
It's up to you, but
I know, it's up to y'all. You're setting the date.
Is that for just the committee, the recreation
No, ma'am.
committee? That's for all of us? I'd
Full
say 4.
council, that's full
Just to
council.
reopen this
I would say 4.
4? Everybody okay? All right, so I need a motion. Okay, Mr. Prater,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Stringfellow, that is to continue the recess at 4 p.m.
Just asking this question.
Discussion.
Since we're recessing, does that mean the councilmen that are not here tonight, could they come to next Tuesday's meeting?
I think they can.
If they're out of quarantine.
they could come in now and be ready.
Okay, so they can come in the middle of the meeting and be recognized.
I think so.
Okay,
I think so.
just wondering,
I
just
understand what
yes.
you're asking, yes. They weren't available to vote.
tonight.
Yes. I will find that out. Okay, so Tuesday at 4 p.m. Recess.
They know that answer.
All right. So it is official recess.
Yes, Mr. Freeman.
So it is official recess. It will not be an adjournment. It is recess.
Okay, take care. I'm assuming you want to get together with, Peter is part of
Guess what he wants?
So we may have.
Nobody can say anything about it.
You can Zoom, right, to get committed. That might be the way to do it. We call it, very basic, you
Maybe a problem with that. Yeah, no, I understand. A license. He could pull a license. Yeah, okay. See, I also let the city.
That's my age, just like some,
Yeah.
Aaron,
Well, like right now,
they
I mean,
came,
everybody's
but
supposed
he
to.
didn't want to unplug during our meeting. He must have, so I think I might get him to let us, so we can loan that line. This time I'll give you a- He's working, like, he I'll try to get it before our meeting. If you need more sense.
Like if the governor says. Yes, I thought
Not there.
They're gonna pick it up.
I gotta stop it.
I was looking at it the other day while I was home, and I was watching the meeting, and I saw you and Aaron doing like that. I mean, you and Sarah looking like that.